I decided to start with splinters in your finger because you can obviously all imagine how that ties into weight loss. Everybody understands a splinter in a finger, and the effect that I want to discuss just very briefly is inflammation. So inflammation response is something you can relate to in terms of pain. If a splinter goes into your finger, the day the splinter goes into your finger, you go, ow, and that's it. The next day, though, if the splinter hasn't been removed, your finger is actually a little bit sore, whether you're doing something with it or not. It actually starts to get a bit red, it throbs, it swells, you can't touch things. It becomes even sensitive to movement. I mean, you notice that thing? That you literally are aware of what your finger's doing. So your brain has a number of ways of telling you there's something wrong down there. Then, a day later, the redness might start to spread down your finger. Then a day later, the wound might start to get larger where the splinter went in. Maybe it falls out if you're lucky, but maybe it starts to become an abscess or an infection that's infected, and skin starts to break. And all in an attempt by your body to get rid of something which is threatening the health of your body and threatening the most important membrane in your body, your skin, which is protecting your biggest organ, your skin, and your most important immune system defense mechanism, your skin. When that barrier is damaged, your body is exposed to its environment and it is petrified of that because your brain, your body knows what's going on around you and it's very scared of it, far more scared than we are. So what happens is your body releases blood cells, they release all sorts of chemicals and histamines and interleukins, and there's all sorts of fancy words about what starts to change to create an inflammation response. So this process of the body attempting to get rid of something dangerous or to kill something dangerous is called inflammation. It's an immune system reaction. So we all know what inflammation is. We've talked about inflammation in the gut. A food that irritates you causes an overstimulation of what's happening in your gut, and you start to become sick from something that's happening in your tummy. Today I saw a woman who's been sick for nearly 4 years, and the only thing she had changed when I went through her story, step by step by step by step, everything started 3 months after she had a Mirena, which is a contraceptive device, put in so that she can't have children, and because she's got some problems with her periods. So doing something that seemed very far removed created a system or a series of reactions by her body that nobody ever recognized to be part of an immune system reaction to something that started to break down or threaten her entire body. So she's been sick. She's put on 28 kilograms in 4 years, while dieting, while doing sport, while watching her skin become terrible, having rashes on her whole body, up to her scalp. She's had 8 operations. Nobody has ever asked, but now what happened to your defense mechanism? What happened to your body's ability to protect itself? So a doctor sometimes gets a little bit distracted when you arrive and you say, doctor, let's not do a thought. My throat's really sore. I've got sinusitis. So for most doctors, what you don't realize is our first thought is, ka-ching, because easy money, see, verstaan jy? Okay, because how dumb do you have to be to diagnose and treat sinusitis? Everybody, anybody? Yes, 3-year-old can manage sinusitis. However, the bigger question really is, why do you have sinusitis? Why did your immune system drop you? Why did it let you down? Why did it overreact to its environment? Why can it not fight off this thing that's invading your system? The question is not which antibiotic to give you. That might be the short-term solution. But the real question is, why did this happen? And what can we do to avoid this happening in the future? And I've been telling a lot of people a story about antioxidants that I'll tell you tonight. I haven't really included it. But so have you all heard of the word antioxidants? Can anybody stand up and explain that to me? The correct answer is no, because we know it. Antioxidants defend us against things in our body called free radicals. That's cool. So if somebody could just quickly stand up and explain free radicals. Okay, so free radicals are byproducts of reactions that happen in the body that cause destruction. They leave us exposed to potentially harmful things. There's a fancy word, we call it metabolites, but a lot of it is oxidizing, rusting. So there's always this little oxygen particle involved, and your body has to get rid of these things. Your immune system is very dependent on these antioxidants to protect itself. So the way I explain that is, your immune system is like the armies in Game of Thrones. Let's make it really relevant. And that also dates this video. Remember Game of Thrones? Oh, good times. So, Game of Thrones. How do we fight in Game of Thrones? We make big, strong men carry swords, shields, spears, and the armies run at each other and fight. And the winning team is the one who has the least deaths. Everybody dies. Everybody loses. The one that can fight the longest, or the one in which the fewest people die, is the winner. It's a retarded form of warfare because nobody actually wins. Everybody loses. But this is your immune system. So when you have a chemical in your body, or a bacteria or a germ, the germ is side the baddies, and the immune system is the goodies. So they charge each other, and the bacteria eject lots of chemicals to try to distract your immune system. Your immune system is supposed to have swords and spears in its hands, and guess what those swords and spears are called? They're called inflammation markers, things that cause reactions to help this environment, to make this environment safer for the soldiers to run in, or spears and swords, which we call antioxidants. So the antioxidants are your weapons that your immune system uses to buffer, to fight this fight, so that in an ideal environment, what should happen to you is there is a threat to your system, there's an attack by one force, there's a defense by another force. If the force has got enough antioxidants, has got a good inflammation response, your immune system will kill that infection before you even know you're sick. So this, what's happening, is happening all the time. Why you sit here? Half of us have got flu. Half of us have got any variety of viruses, but do you have a fever? Do you have a headache? Do you have aches and pains? Yeah, sometimes you do. You know, there's times you get home, you go, oh, kop is maar 'n bietjie seer vanaand. Ek weet nie, seker nie lekker geslaap nie. Bit of a pain in the muscle, bit of a cramps or spasms or itchiness or burning, little funny system changes that we can't explain. What's actually happening is there's a war raging inside of you, and your body is fighting, and what it's using is inflammation and antioxidants. And these antioxidants get used up. So that's where the healthy eating comes in, and that's where the exercise comes in, and that's where something silly like sweating, detoxifying, keeping your body as healthy as possible so that that buffer is always intact. Antioxidants. Here, an interesting thing. You might be somebody or know somebody who says, whenever I travel, when I arrive, I'm always sick. And then I'm sick for a few days, always get sinusitis. How about the other one? I saw them this week. My child was on a camp last weekend. On Monday, she came home and she's got an infection. Okay? We've all had that thing. Went to watch rugby in the rain. Now I have an infection. Do you really have an infection from that? Easy answer, no. How many times have you been given an antibiotic after something like that? Many. What happened to you is you were exposed to an element that was threatening to your system. Your body had to attack and fight and defend, and depending on the antioxidant availability, your weapons, you could either keep it at bay or it took over. It didn't have to be a very strong infection. So if you can't muster a defense system, your body will fall, even to a weak little germ. Then the germ will take over, the inflammation will increase, and then you feel sick. Inflammation, snotty, hoofpyn, moeg. So these are systems that have nothing to do with how strong the infection is. A lot of the bacteria and viruses that make us sick are pathetic little things. They are dwarfs, but we are defenseless against them because of this defense system that's not working properly. So when you buy vitamins, what you are doing is strengthening your defenses. You are weaponizing your armies. That's one of your antioxidants. Vitamin C is a very powerful antioxidant. Glutathione is an antioxidant. This is something you get from food. N-acetylcysteine, antioxidant. Selenium, antioxidant. These are all things that make your body seem to work better. They're not working better. They're helping it fight what's happening. Oh, what I wanted to tell you about the traveler. People who get sick from traveling, they have found that even being at altitude in a pressurized compartment actually puts your system under strain, and you use up antioxidants. So you get sick every time you fly. But most of us, if it's a short trip, you're fine. The longer the trip, the more it gets used up, the more likely you are to be sick when you get to the other side, or really tired. So a lot of jet lag is related not only to the sun and time change, but also to this antioxidant use of your body trying to just basically stay healthy in an environment which is not normal for it. And this is one of the problems they have in space too, is that the body immediately responds to the environment as though there's something very wrong. Floating around in a little shuttle is not natural, and your body doesn't like it, thinks something's wrong. So that's got nothing to do with what we're talking about, except very loosely linked to inflammation, which is what I want to talk about. So inflammation, the body cells that attack. I want to show you why inflammation is the bigger problem in your body than disease, and why inflammation ultimately causes your heart attacks. So in your this is a blood vessel. These are the blood cells flowing backwards and forwards. These are the red ones. These are the ones we call the white ones. They can actually move through the walls wherever there's damage done to an artery wall, from pressure, from just sitting on your bum for 2 hours, puts pressure. You know that feeling that you have to just move around a little bit after a while? That's because you're cutting your circulation off while you're sitting there. When you cut your circulation off, you should actually get bum attacks, because you cut the blood supply off to you. But we don't diagnose that very often anymore, fortunately. So, and nobody's ever died of it as far as we know. What's happening though is, as soon as there's damage to your arterial walls, your body reacts with these systems we're talking about: antioxidants, inflammation. One of the materials that your body uses to start patching up damaged areas is cholesterol or fat. So I'm kind of leading towards how cholesterol and inflammation link up together. All the inflammation's happening. The body is trying to, like the splint in your finger, the body is trying to remove the thing that's causing the problem and the threat, and then it needs to heal that thing. Inflammation is a process. It starts with whatever caused the problem, and it ends when the body has completely healed and the problem is gone. Inflammation is supposed to have a start and an end inside your body as well. Damage to your blood vessels, absolutely fine. While you go and sleep tonight, your body quickly patches up that little bit of damaged area, and tomorrow morning you wake up and your bum is just beautiful again. So, interestingly enough, a lot of oxidation happens in your bum. We might have to cut this later. But one of the interesting things you can actually see, ladies might have observed this, but in a woman, one can see oxidation in your buttocks, I'm afraid. So have you noticed old men and old women, what is common amongst us as we age is the bum starts to sag and flatten and sink in a little bit. Yeah? This is oxidation. This is wear and tear. This is your bum literally rusting off. Which sounds cool now while it's there, and then it's just there. So then you have to buy that bra for here and the bra for here. A bum bra. It's big. I'm going to start selling them next year. Bum bras. A Wonder Bum bra shows a little bit of crack. And we sell it to the plumbers. It's very, very, very trendy. Okay. Would you believe I just made that up? I did, but it's a picture. It's just so clear. Okay, so the point is, so the body is trying to fix your blood, your whole system is trying to be fixed all the time. Inflammation. One of the strongest defenses your body has against inflammation, specific in your arteries now, in your blood vessels, is cholesterol. Okay, so this leads to our next thing. Before we even, maybe I'll change the order a little bit. No, I won't. So cholesterol. Let's look at cholesterol. What else does cholesterol do in your body? Why is cholesterol an important thing? So now I've told you that cholesterol has an important role in patching and repairing and helping your body to heal. But what else does cholesterol do in your body? So I've made some of these things blue because I don't want you to be distracted by them. The yellow ones are the important, and these are the ones you obviously have to memorize. So I'll just give you a few minutes to try and pronounce the first 3 letters of each word. It's not actually so hard, eh? No, this one's hard. 17-alpha hydroxyprogesterone. Anyway, cholesterol. Cholesterol becomes, in every single human being, cholesterol becomes some of your most important hormones that we have talked about. Progesterone. These ones you might not recognize the names, but estrone, estradiol, estriol sounds a bit like estrogen. Hey? So all the female hormones are produced from cholesterol. The male hormone produced from cholesterol. Aldosterone produced from cholesterol helps your body decide how much sodium, salt, it keeps and how much it loses, which has to do with how much water your body keeps and loses, which very much affects your weight and your blood pressure. Cortisol is what helps you to manage your stress. Cortisol helps you with inflammation. The more inflamed you are, the more cortisol you have. People who have chronic illnesses, diabetes, cancers, inflammation disorders, we get given cortisol to help us fight these infections. But all cortisol does, actually, is it manages your body, it helps your body manage stress. When a doctor gives you cortisol, do you think he gives you cortisol to help you get better? You think that, no? Have we talked about cortisol before? Because so I use this, so just to put it sort of in balance, I do use cortisol, and you might know the word cortisone. So cortisone is an inactive form of cortisol. The body can convert one to the other. Cortisol, more active. We don't give you cortisol to make you better. We give you cortisol to trick your body into feeling better. When cortisol is high, it suppresses your immune system. It's almost like putting heavy armor on your soldiers so that when they run, can you imagine the slow motion? Get the dwarves, we can't carry the swords. So you have a pathetic and a suppressed immune system response to the threat. So you know what ends up happening? You have a germ or infection or chemical or poison happening here. You have an immune system that's going to try to fight it there, and we give you cortisone to just stop that attack. And so you know what ends up happening? Nothing. The germ just carries on the side, the chemical, the toxin, the poison, whatever's killing you. The cortisone happens on the side, keeps your armies down, suppressed, unhappy. So every time you have an allergy and you use a cortisone to control the allergy, every time your nose runs and we spray a cortisone into your nose, we're not fixing you, we are killing your army, so we're just trying to prevent a war. Now sometimes we get away with it. In your nose, it looks like we get away with it, but the problem with it is that you can forget that the war exists. So you can have two armies facing each other, and after a while they start like throwing tennis balls because they think, well, if we're not going to fight, let's play a game. And so you can have a war. Not a war. You can have two very confused armies not really knowing what's going on, and other diseases start to slip in the side as your body starts to ignore the threats coming in because it can't respond to them anymore. And that's the danger of using cortisone for infections, is your body no longer reacts to an infection. So when somebody says to me, Doc, I haven't been sick for 20 years, it means one of two things. It means, yes, maybe you are the healthiest person I know, or it means you're the sickest person I know, because your immune system doesn't even have the energy to respond to an infection. So stuff's going on, and we all know those stories. This guy, he hasn't seen a doctor for 20 years. Then he dies of a heart attack. Just how did that happen? He's so healthy. That's why it happened. He didn't see a doctor because he thought everything's fine, because I never get sick. But you're sick all the time, but it's just going on in your immune system, just ignoring it. So you want to get sick. Isn't that weird? You need your system to be active. You want to know it's working. Yes. Yes. Yeah, so it's hard to defend. So here's the thing. Asthma kills people. Asthma is an overreaction by your immune system that causes your immune system, causes your airways in your lungs to tighten up, to prevent whatever the potential threat is. It stops the flow of air. The walls of the airways get thick, and the body produces mucus in an attempt to clean out or clear out whatever it feels like is happening. But it's an overreaction. There very often is nothing going on. So the question is, it's a good question. Why do we use cortisone? Well, because people who don't get cortisone die of asthma. Or worse, because the airways remain blocked, they get other infections. So now you've got mucus there, you've got swelling, you've got poor circulation, you have an inflammation process. It's the perfect environment for germs. So what happens to all my asthmatic patients? They get sick all the time. So at the end of the day, modern medicine has decided that it's safer to sort of launch a preemptive attack. I fight before they strike. Because I've decided, and this is one of the problems with conventional medicine, we have decided the body is over-responding to something. Instead of asking the real question, which is, why are you getting asthma? What has happened in your body that your immune system continues to react to something? Surely we should spend a little bit more time trying to decide what it is that makes your body react. What is it keeping your immune system so stimulated? So we consider asthma an immune system disease. It's not an allergy to something. Well, allergies also are immune system diseases, I suppose. But if you're allergic to something, you have an oversensitive immune system. And cortisone suppresses it, and so the body forgets to attack it, and your airways open a bit, and you feel better. So we do it. Because I think in that specific case, the alternative is so risky to give you nothing. I think we just haven't spent enough time understanding disease and the origin or cause of disease. And I'll tell you why. Most doctors don't acknowledge the fact that there's a link between what you eat and your health. And you would think it's like retarded that we don't think that, but we are not taught that at all. Doctors know less about food than the average person working in Pick and Pay. We don't get taught about food. We get taught about chemistry and disease and inflammation. I can spend hours explaining how each of these systems work, but it doesn't necessarily make you healthier. Understanding it and knowing how to apply it are two completely different things. So we get taught a lot of science because it does get complicated. So this is a real oversimplification of what's happening, because most people look at this and go, oh, I can do that. I could have been a doctor. And then they spend a year on this form, and by the end, you can't spell half the words on here. And I think the challenges come in that in each section, for this to convert to that, there's 20 or 30 different things that have to happen. There's 20 things that can make it happen faster. There's 20 things that can make it happen slower. There's 20 things that can make it skip this and go straight to that. And that's where it starts to become really complicated as well. Okay, but that's enough about the asthma question. So cortisol, is cortisol good for you? No. Remember we talked a bit about parasympathetic, sympathetic. Who has high cortisol? The person who's in a sympathetic state, stressed, increased cortisol. What's the bad thing about cortisol? Suppresses your immune system. You become vulnerable. That means there is a war going on that you're not aware of. And it pops up in funny little places. It pops up headaches, tiredness, anxiety, depression, sleeplessness, insomnia, kan nie slaap nie. This is the war that you're not noticing that's going on. And then if you see the wrong doctor, and we all are the wrong doctor sometimes, because when somebody says to me, doctor, I really can't sleep, I could spend 5 years trying to understand why you can't sleep and give you the right medicine, or I could just give you a sleeping tablet. So we do get very lazy. You know why? Because when you haven't slept for 3 nights, you're a bit grumpy. And you don't need a doctor to say, man, I've got a beautiful 18-month plan, and we're going to work through this step by step. And eventually we'll build up from 1 hour sleep to 1.5 hours and then 2 hours. Like, good luck to you. You will have a lot of empty, quiet days while your patients see other doctors who give them sleeping tablets. So what is an interesting thing? The reason I want to show you this thing, cortisol is at the top of this thing. Hey, when your body has a problem with cortisol, when your body is constantly inflamed, constantly tired, can't repair, poor food, poor recovery, your body produces a lot of cortisol. But a problem develops. The more cortisol your body requires, the higher your cholesterol levels start to go. When your cholesterol goes up, we all end up at our doctor at some point. My cholesterol's going up, my blood pressure's going up, I'm not sleeping well, I'm anxious. Maybe I'm becoming diabetic. Maybe I'm getting sick over and over and over and I'm not getting better. And so what does your doctor invariably do when he sees high cholesterol? Gives you something to decrease it. Instead of asking, why is the cholesterol high? So you know what cholesterol is? When I do your cholesterol, I don't look at your cholesterol to give you a tablet to bring it down. Cholesterol is an inflammation marker. It shows me how happy your system is. Because if your body is functioning well, your cholesterol is going to be normal. If your body is not functioning well, cholesterol is going to go up. It gets a bit more complicated. I'll show you on the next slide. But if your body is short of testosterone, your body starts making more cholesterol. But why does your testosterone go down, males and females? Why does that go down when you're stressed? Is because your cortisol goes up. So two things happen. Your cortisol suppresses your normal body functions, suppresses your immune system, suppresses your digestion, suppresses your absorption of food, suppresses your fertility, suppresses your energy, your thinking, your functioning of your brain. Because your body starts to divert all its energy to producing cortisol. So we have something called a cortisol steal. It stops making these, and it just focuses on making cortisol. So you end up stressed and becoming sicker and sicker and sicker. So sometimes if I want to fix a woman with hormone imbalances, I need to find out what's causing stress on her system. I need to see if there's a toxicity problem. Are you not getting rid of chemicals properly? Are you being poisoned by your cigarette smoking, your diet, your lack of exercise, other medication that's working against what we're trying to do? A lot of men come to me, I take them off cholesterol tablets. I want to see, first of all, what happens off the cholesterol tablet. Does it go up, down? What part of your cholesterol changes? And that's where we get to this next picture. We know the different parts of cholesterol. LDL, HDL, triglycerides. Now, these poor people have all been given names. You know their names. The bad cholesterol, the good cholesterol, the stuff nobody really knows what triglyceride cholesterol. So triglycerides are kind of fats that your body can use as energy. It's a thing that's busy becoming a fat. It's made up of something called glycerol and fatty acids. Now, your body can burn fatty acids. Do you remember we talked about banting, we talked about ketosis? One of the things your body uses for energy are these things, fatty acids. When your insulin is high, your fatty acids stay in your fat cells. When your insulin is low, they come out so your body can burn them as fuel. So insulin affects that. When somebody's triglycerides are high, I know that the cholesterol levels are going up because they have a problem with sugar or carbohydrates, not fat. So a lot of people over the years have been told that when your cholesterol is high, it's because you're eating too much cholesterol. Okay? So you get put on a cholesterol-lowering diet. So how many of you have thrown those diets away over the years? Everybody. How many of you have said, my husband's on this diet, we can't have eggs, and we've got to be careful of fat on the food, and we've got to eat, low-fat milk and lean this and low-fat yogurt, because we've been told that the fat is the problem. But here's the real joke. Cholesterol is made by your body. It's recycled inside your body. 90% of your cholesterol is controlled by your body. Only 10% of your cholesterol is controlled by what you eat. So it will affect what your cholesterol level is. 10%. That's very small. When you start taking cholesterol out of your diet, in other words, eating less and less fat, you know what your body does? It makes more cholesterol. In fact, you start to put a stress on your system. It doesn't make a little bit more, it makes a lot more. So over the years, telling everybody to eat low-fat foods to lower their cholesterol, we've actually been making it worse because the body experiences that as a stress. Now it's got a new problem it has to deal with. No fats coming into the system. So we want the cholesterol because the cholesterol, remember, all those things are being made from your cholesterol, and all your system's inflammation is being healed by cholesterol.
Can I just ask you something quickly? How does familial hypercholesterolemia fit into this?
It's a little bit more complicated, but cholesterol has to be broken down in the body. So there's a few steps I've missed out here, but there's an enzyme that doesn't break the cholesterol down. So instead of your body just quickly repairing something, what happens is that it forms a big lump of cholesterol that blocks the artery and eventually breaks off and blocks it and gives you a heart attack. Okay, so the theory is that your body can't use the cholesterol to make all of these things. So sometimes we diagnose familial hypercholesterolemia very easily, but it's actually the true familial thing is an enzyme problem. Only a very small percentage of people have that enzyme problem, and their cholesterol levels are normally 10 or more. So if your cholesterol is 7, you do not have a family high cholesterol, familial hypercholesterolemia. You have a deficiency of something like vitamin B6 or B5 or magnesium or zinc. So some of you might have given you niacin. Niacin is a vitamin that helps your body just convert it again. But it works on that enzyme. So there are real familial ones. And the truth is, none of us know what to do with it. Even those of us that are sort of approaching cholesterol from this new era of, don't just jump when you see high cholesterol. The problem with people with high cholesterol, family high cholesterols, is still not that they die because of cholesterol. Go one step back with me and remember, what does cholesterol do? It patches up the damaged parts of the arteries. So just think about that. If there's no damage, then what does the cholesterol do? It just keeps flowing. And I'll show you on that cholesterol picture again why that happens. So even if you've got a family cholesterol, bringing your cholesterol down does not guarantee that it'll save your heart attack. And the opposite is true. Just because you have a high cholesterol doesn't mean you will have a heart attack because of the cholesterol. At the end of the day, it still comes down to the damage. You will be more sensitive if there's damage. Then your cholesterol is going to puck on and you're going to get your heart attack for sure. But just because your cholesterol is high does not equal heart attacks. More than half of the people that have heart attacks don't have high cholesterol. So it shoots the whole theory in the foot because we've been so taught that cholesterol equals heart attacks. And yet we know that even if we lower people's cholesterols right down to half of what it should be, we don't change the outcomes. And if they don't die of the heart attack, they just die of something else. So after 60 years of using cholesterol medications, we have not extended life yet, statistically. We can't show that anybody lives longer. We have fewer heart attacks, but you just die of something else because we haven't addressed the underlying problem, inflammation, bum attacks, sit the lung, and then the blood stops flowing, and then the body's not well. That's why you die of a heart attack, not because of your cholesterol. Because look how clever cholesterol is. The different types of cholesterol. So some of you have heard of LDL, HDL, triglycerides, no? So the truth is, and some doctors forget this too, LDL is not cholesterol. HDL is not cholesterol. Cholesterol is fat. But what carries it in the body is this thing called LDL. It's like a balloon. And what's inside the balloon is the cholesterol, the fat. But what the balloon is made of, or how heavy that balloon is, determines whether it's low density lipoprotein. It's a carrier that's holding. So cholesterol is the same. You only get one kind of cholesterol. It's called cholesterol. Then you get different things that carry it. And those are the things that decide what happens to that cholesterol. So some of them, LDL carries cholesterol to the place where the damage has happened and deposits it so that it can do its job of patching and healing. HDL goes to the place where the cholesterol has now done its job, collects it, gathers it, and carries it back to the liver. That's why we call it the good cholesterol. The bad cholesterol is just trying to fix its job. That's like saying the builder who's busy building your house, he's a bad guy because he's putting bricks on top of each other. The good guy is that analogy is not going to work. I didn't think it through. So the architect who draws the nice picture of what your house is going to look like. There's no good and no bad. They are both equally important. An architect's picture is not going to become a house unless somebody builds it. There has to be both processes happening all the time. So what happens is we're putting a lot more emphasis on this. The cholesterol that cleans, the lipoprotein that cleans cholesterol away from the damage. That's what we want. So if you come to me and you've got a cholesterol of 400 million. But your LDL is low and your HDL is your LDL is 200 million. This could happen. And your LDL is 210 million. I'm going to tell you you're fine. You're not going to have a heart attack because your body is depositing and clearing at the right rate. So in other words, nothing's getting stuck. Nothing's causing blockages. So stuff's not dying. It's not being starved of blood and oxygen. Triglycerides is an in-between thing. You know when doctors always tell you to fast before we do your cholesterol? So we don't have to do that anymore. For two reasons. One is when you fast, we used to be able to work out this, which changes when you eat. So if you don't eat, it's low. If you eat, it goes high. And we are able to measure this, HDL. But for many years, we couldn't measure LDL. So what we used to do is we used to go, the total cholesterol equals this, and what's left is LDL. We used to calculate it. Now we can actually measure it directly. So we don't have to have you fasting anymore. Plus, there's a big school of thought that says, so if I must tell you to stop eating for 12 hours so I can see what your cholesterol is, then what have I really measured? I've measured a situation that doesn't exist. You without food for 12 hours. Because that's not how you live. You live with food. Your cholesterol level at your normal daily food intake is what actually is killing you. Not what it comes down to when you haven't eaten for 12 hours. Your insulin is the same. I don't need to know what your insulin level is after you haven't eaten for 12 hours. I need to know what your insulin level is after you eat. Because that's what's killing you. That's what's giving you diabetes. Cholesterol's got a lot of things. We have now VLDL, IDL, LDL, HDL. We actually know that the LDL, the bad one, we can now, most of your doctors will look at this and go, if it's more than 3.5, we're going to give you a cholesterol medication to kill the builders. We don't want builders. The builders is bad. So it's a little bit like if you're driving down the highway and there's accidents all the time, and you started noticing, how whenever there's an accident, there's an ambulance that arrives at that accident. So do you know how we'll decrease the number of accidents on the road? We keep the ambulances away because we've made that association. It's as retarded as that. We're killing the guy that's trying to fix the problem. We're targeting the wrong problem. The problem is inflammation, damage, bum attacks. So the triglyceride is food related. The more sugar you eat, the higher triglycerides. The higher triglycerides, the higher the cholesterol. There's your inflammation. So your diabetic patient is at much higher risk of all of these problems because of this part of the problem here. Not this, not this. Inflammation. The diabetic's body struggles to heal. And that's why diabetics have heart attacks more than everybody else. But unfortunately, overweight people, obesity, causes the same problem. Obesity is a state of inflammation. It's a disease state. Okay? It's not just about your pant size or your dress. It's an irritating state, and it's a disease state. No pressure. So, because we all will struggle with it. We live in a time where we will all be challenged by it for the rest of our lives. We know the LDL. So let's go to LDL quickly. We're all going to die of high LDL? Yeah, no. Because we now know there are 7 different kinds of LDL, and we can look at this VLDL, very low density lipoproteins, LDL, and triglycerides. They get carried. Remember my balloons? They're carrying cholesterol and triglycerides in one balloon. Depending on the ratios of triglycerides and cholesterol in my balloon, I now can start to call my LDLs different names. Small, dense, light, fluffy. We couldn't think of any other names. Textbooks say, small, dense, light, fluffy. Of all the names we've come up with over the years, that was it. It's like naming our puppy. Anyway, so light, fluffy puppy is the good one. So how do we know? I want to just teach you a very clever little thing, because we talk about knowing your cholesterol number. I don't know if you guys, maybe some of you have come across that thing. This is becoming a fashionable thing to do. In America, they're testing everybody, and we can't actually do the test here yet. We have to send it overseas to do it. We can approximate it. We do a test now called lipoprotein A, or we do a test called apolipoprotein. This shows me what kind of bad cholesterol you have to say, is this one going to cause problem or is this not? Is this a good one or a very good one or a bad one or a very bad one or a very bad one or a really worse one? So you see all the different types now. So if you have light, fluffy LDL, it means it circulates easy. If you have small, dense, it's a heavy little bugger. It wants to block your arteries. If you throw sand over a tiled floor, and you need to sweep the sand off the floor, what part of the sand is the biggest problem? The big pieces? Near, because you sweep them easily. The dusty little particles? Near, because you can blow them away. Which ones are the problem? The small, fine sand that gets stuck in the cracks of the tiles, because that's what's happening in your body too. So that's why we don't want the small, dense one, because it gets stuck in the cracks. It starts this process too easily, and it builds these blockages. So we want the light, fluffy ones, or we want the very light ones that can just float. Very low dense, these HDLs. Does everybody understand cholesterol now? So please go home and make sure you eat your cholesterol. And welcome to 2015, where everything just got really weird. It got weird a long time ago, but we're starting to catch on. And there's a lot of places you can start to read up on cholesterol. And you'll see more and more doctors are, A, very nervous to treat it, or B, at least starting to ask, but now we're supposed to treat it. Because there used to be a time when if you're diabetic, you get a cholesterol medicine, no question. If you have blood pressure, you get a cholesterol medication, no question. And that's changed, irrespective of what your cholesterol levels were. There was a time when doctor looked at your cholesterol, you have your finger prick discovery, which is really quite an advanced medical aid, and yet they are retarded in this one spot. They will prick your finger. It's a meaningless test. Okay, so if they want to prick your finger to tell you what cholesterol, stick your finger in their eye. Just like that. Wait for them to prick it first. The bloody finger. No! Test my sugar on it. No! It's also stupid. I'm not diabetic because my sugar is up or down. It's the insulin that's important. So if you're not testing insulin, don't waste your money. If you're not testing the type of cholesterols, don't waste your money. They are meaningless tests. They're just telling me how sick you are. By the time they're both high, you're very sick. Last thing, let's do something about thyroid. This is the last thing you will ever hear me say. Unless you download me on YouTube. Thyroid is a gland that sits here by your neck. It decides how much energy your body has available to spend. Not how much you have, how much your body can afford to use. It's the full tank and the empty tank story. When you've got a full tank of energy, life, health, nutrients, antioxidants, low inflammation, low cortisol, parasympathetic, feel amazing, then your tank is full and your thyroid foot is flat on your accelerator pedal and your thyroid functions beautifully. As soon as the reserve light comes on, then the thyroid goes, but wait. If I keep driving at this speed, I'm going to use up my last reserve. And when I've only got 5 liters of petrol left, I want to drive as slowly as I can we all know this in our car. The faster you drive, the faster you use your petrol. Do you know that? It's true. So the most economical speed to drive is 80 kilometers an hour. Do you know that? The distance you cover versus the fuel you use, the most economical at 80. Not 60, 80. Actually 82. Useless information. Trivial pursuit question. So 120, 40. No, too slow. So the problem with 40 is you'll drive far, but you'll get there too slow. You die. If the engine is working well and the fuel tank is full, petrol flows well. The thyroid controls it. When there's a problem with fuel or there's a problem with the engine functioning, the body will slow down, not by braking, but by pulling back on the accelerator. You've got to be very careful when your doctor says you've got a low thyroid. Don't worry, I'll just give you a thyroid tablet. Because your body has responded for a very specific reason. Your body has gone, there's a problem here. If I go too fast, it's going to become more dangerous. I'm going to burn out, run out, die. So when the doctor gives you your thyroid medicine, you will feel better again. And all he's really helped you do is die faster. It's good, eh? We do this, and we charge for it. So I don't have to shoot people through a door. I can kill people every day and earn money. So here's the problem with thyroid disease. It is a very common problem. Do you know what? It's an inflammation and an immune system disorder. When there is sickness in the body, the thyroid doesn't work. 1/3 of people have a thyroid disease problem and don't know it. Now, that's important not because I want to give you thyroid medicine. I do want to give you thyroid medicine. But I do want to understand why your body needed thyroid in the first place. So I want to be the best of both worlds. I want to give you something to help you feel better, because you need to feel better to make the changes you need to make. But if I don't address the underlying problem, people that have, say, gained weight because their thyroid's not working will continue to gain weight or won't lose it even though they feel better. What's the underlying problem? Why the inflammation in the first place? Why do a lot of people who look like thyroid patients, so what does a thyroid patient look like? Where's my list? Look at the symptoms of thyroid. Tiredness, depression, anxiety, dry skin, thinning hair, polycystic ovaries, infertility, weight gain, thin nails, because that's thin nails. Maybe it shouldn't be so close to infertility. Just like, doctor, I'm here today to talk about the fact I can't have babies. Did you all see that? It's a very subtle joke. It's like playing card tricks. You've got to look very closely. Anyway, so double folds in your, if you've got a little railway track on your neck, a lump in the throat, so feel like you swallow against something. Cold hands and cold feet, low blood pressure, weak. Now the weakness is an interesting weakness. It's shoulders and upper legs. So you can't do that. Squatting is hard. Getting up off a chair, we all know you because you go, but that's why we invented remotes, so that you don't have to keep getting up. Okay, or have children. Remember, it used to be the other day we had one of those paradoxical moments where the remote was lying over there, so I remembered, oh, that's why I have children, to fetch the remote. It's clever, eh? Because whatever you do, don't get up to change your channels. It's weird. Poor circulation. Poor circulation. A lot of people with this, cold hands and feet, say they have poor circulation. Constipation. A lot of people have bowel problems. They actually have a thyroid problem. Fluid retention, swelling. And a very interesting thing called myxedema. Myxedema it's not fluid. It's like thickness of your joints. Scankle people. Be careful of thyroid, because it's like a mixture of fat and fluid that makes a horrible sort of a knobbly, swollen ankle. Very sexy. Always cold. First person to put on their jersey, jacket. Never go anywhere. Midsummer, take a jacket. Why? Because you've got something wrong with your thyroid. Easily feel tired. These are the symptoms of low thyroid, okay? So, unfortunately, these are also the symptoms of stress. These are the symptoms of adrenal fatigue. This is because it's a disease thing. Remember, the thyroid didn't make you sick. Something made you sick and your thyroid said, wait, slow down. So a thinking doctor will try to find out why. 1/3 of people will have a thyroid test that will test normal. Do you know why? When your body can't afford to waste energy, it doesn't respond to the fact that the thyroid's not working. So your blood levels look normal. And most doctors test just one test, TSH, it's from your brain, thyroid stimulating hormone. We go, if the TSH is normal, it means your body's not reacting or trying to repair anything. Therefore, you have no thyroid problem. Wrong. Under chronic inflammation, immune suppression, medication, tiredness caused by disease, infection, your thyroid levels stay the same. But you have thyroid disorder, weakness, disease, some people. Check what can make you sick. Fluorine. You could be brushing your teeth with something that is competing with your thyroid, because fluorine or fluoride, bromine or bromide, iodine or iodide, these are all gases. If you've done chemistry at school, they are down the periodic table. They're all underneath each other. They have the same properties. So your body can't distinguish between them. Any one of them can work in your thyroid. The one that your body wants, though, in the thyroid is iodine. But if you've got these guys, fluorine, water, drinking water, toothpaste, that's where you get most of us. Do you know that fluoride there is a guy, he lived in the 40s, who decided that fluoride was good for your teeth. He started doing some tests which were amazing. they really showed that fluoride is incorporated into teeth, and so everyone's like, put it in the freaking water. Then he went to the US because they said, come over here and teach us about fluoride. But what had happened in the meantime is he started getting results back from his tests after 1 year, 2 years, to show that the fluoride in the water was making no difference. In fact, it was causing damage to teeth. But he'd just been given a contract to help the entire USA fluoridate its water. Truth, Bob, I read this. So a man who now proposed that this will have, it was a good idea because it sounded like it would work, discovers himself that it won't work, but goes to America and tells them it will work too. Big conspiracy theory, eh? And you thought James Bond was weird. And the entire USA now puts fluoride in its water based on zero evidence of effectiveness, based on one man who convinced the government of the time that fluoride will improve the dental health of the area. No change. So for all, now what happens is, I read this number. I'm going to make up a number because it's $300 billion a year industry fluoridating the water. So guess what's not going to disappear anytime soon? Fluoride in the water. Because now people make money out of it. Because you know what they say? We've all heard this thing said, well, it doesn't do any harm. So $300 billion a year to put something in your water you don't need, that now we think it does do harm. It competes with iodine, so it's killing your thyroid. How many of you know somebody who's got a thyroid problem? Everybody? Do you think your granny knew somebody who had a thyroid problem? No. In the last 60 years, we have seen a 10-fold increase in the number of thyroid problems. So stress plays a role, immune system plays a role, our food plays a role, our bum disease, that thing where we don't get up, everything. So we all have thyroid disease. So it's a fantastic time. And then bromine. Do you know that they spray bromine on your fruit to make it shiny and to stay fresh? It's a kind of a natural pesticide, which is not harmful. So that's why you're supposed to rinse your fruit. But here's the trick. If you rinse it underwater, do you know how much bromine comes off when you rinse it underwater? 0. So don't eat fruit. If you're banting, you shouldn't be eating fruit. Anyway, you're supposed to actually soak your fruit or wash it with a little bit of vinegar water if you really want to get the chemicals off. Yes, it doesn't taste very nice. We also use it in flame retardants. This material you're sitting on now, try and burn this stuff, it can't burn. You know why? Because it's been injected with bromide. So it's a flame retardant. It's all around you. You have been killing the whole time you sit here. Have you noticed you get tired when you sit down? It's because your thyroid is just finished. So before you come in here, I should give everybody a thyroid tablet. Just and have a bite of this apple cleaned with vinegar. Okay, so last thing with thyroid, the last thing ever that I will ever say to you. Thyroid, make sure your doctor does this test. T4, T3. This is thyroid. The green stuff is the iodine. So we can test T4, we can test T3. T4 is inactive, it circulates through your body. T3 is the active thing that gets to the place and works. All that happens is your body gives off one of the iodine molecules and it now works. It becomes an active thing. An interesting thing your body does, though, when it doesn't need thyroid to be active, when your body is sick or when, wait for this one, your cortisol is high, your body changes the T3 to something we call reverse T3. Now, can you all spot the difference between those two? It's massive. Not so much, but it completely inactivates it. So this one is active, this one is inactive. This one is active, this one is inactive. When I test your thyroid, I do TSH from the brain, T4, inactive, T3. We don't distinguish between the two. So even when your doctor's done all the right tests, if all the levels look normal, we are still testing, part of what we're testing is the inactive form of your thyroid. So I'm telling you it's normal and it's not normal, it's switched off. So, that's everything. I don't think you can learn any more.
I think you totally could have made it with that, Jim.
You reckon? I have got 20 minutes more to go here. We would have protected you. So, ladies and gentlemen, you have now officially completed, when you've done your forms, of course, The BetYaLife program 2015 group number, do you know what you are? 29. 29 groups since we started with 3 people on my couch at Oakmead. And 6 years. It could be the last one ever. I'm just dramatizing. Probably not. 2 weeks' time, we'll probably start another one. So tell your friends, be on Facebook, tell them it's awesome. We're going to have our next course at Tiger Valley Center. So they have at the Mug and Peen. Yeah, you've really understood the spirit of this. So, yeah. No, we're actually just going to be walking around the center while we talk. Because that's what's missing here. So, Tiger Valley has a conference center somewhere at the bottom. We'll send maps and details. So it's very central, there's lots of parking, and there's somewhere to have your cheat meal after the course, which is always nice. So we'll send invitations if you've joined us. If you've enjoyed it, please say so. I do want to see if you have a nice before and after photo. So, you know, I don't want you to lose weight, and you know that. But if you have, because some people, when you don't know what we do, you actually just want to do one thing, hey, you want to lose weight. And I'm very sorry about that. It takes me weeks to convince you that that's not important. But some people will still look at our program based on that sort of result. So I want you to be healthy. I want your inflammation to be done. I want you to be chilled out and happy people. So please do that, and don't diet until you're unhappy. Rather just live and be happy. And the other stuff will fix itself slowly as you just keep concentrating on it. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. And we will see you never again. We'll see you at work or wherever. Enjoy it. Thanks so much, you guys.